having this environment for our meetings, and really like it. And the other environment that I think is really great is I can see everybody's face for now. Thank you for, I want you also to feel that whatever you feel that you're most comfortable with, you know, wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, that's up to you. And we have 4 new committee members, which we're very happy to have, and that is Leanne Kemp is over there, Jeff Albert's in the back, Terry Gottleiber, and Terry's in Dallas. So we have our first committee person who is in the hubs and bringing another environment to us as far as what we do in the future. And also Denise Wheelerspot. And Denise and Terry are going to be working on the e-news. So that's going to be their area, and they have a lot of good ideas as far as what you'll see on the email that you get in the future. And our main meeting, we are going to have Buck Farley do the presentation. And Buck is the State Farm archivist and historian now. And I think that will be a really interesting program as far as what's going on with State Farm and where we've been, some of the interesting things that they pick up over the years, as well as what we're having today. And then lastly, we're very thankful to Busey Bank and also to Direct Travel for being our sponsors. Gold Timers doesn't exist without their support, so just wanted to, again, thank you. And with that, I'm going to introduce Fred from Busey.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Brett Peterson. For those of you who don't know me, we've been with the group now for probably a little over 2 years, I think, working with the Gold Timers group. I lead the wealth management team here locally from McLean and Livingston County. I do want to introduce a few team members. You met Taylor Morgan, who's our advisor, and Jessica Cruz, who's our administrator on our team. We also have Catherine Wills, who runs private clients. So again, they put a lot of work into this to kind of get organized. So appreciative of their help. So thank you. Just a couple quick updates. Really, the biggest one that we've been working on are going to be our workshops. So what we decided to do last year was to start to break out this group and offer smaller venues. So what we've been offering is roughly, let's say 30 people, and we invite those folks in the bank, and we talk around different topics. We had our first workshop last year, and it was around charitable giving, really focusing on QCDs, so qualified charitable distributions or donations. We're actually going to repeat that because it was such a popular topic. We actually filled up last year at 30, and we have about 20 registered for this April. Again, so we have 30 spots available. There's 10 spots still open. That's on April 14th. It's going to start at 10 o'clock, and that will be basically the same presentation that we had last year. So we're looking forward to that. And again, if you're interested, those do go pretty quickly. So if it's something that you'd like to learn more about, we're happy to have you. The other big thing is that we're obviously going to continue to do the workshops. So the topics will vary. And the reason we're repeating this, the one we did last year, is we got some feedback as far as the timing of that one, and they felt it was more appropriate to have it earlier in the year. But the topics will vary, and that can be found on goldtimers.org. And that's, Marie, you can double check me on this, that's goldtimers.org, special events, I think events, and then it goes to, there's a registration link there for you. So, other than that, again, just very, very grateful to be a part of the group. Before I hand it off to Greg, I do want to recognize the committee and all the work that they do. I'll do this every time that I'm up here. I'm always impressed with how hard they work and how much this means to them. So if we can give them a round of applause, I'd appreciate it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Greg.
Hello, my name is Greg Watson. I'm with the travel group for Gold Timers, along with Kathy Clary. She'll talk after me. And we've added Keith Rich. Anybody? A little higher, Keith, so we can all see it. Thank you. We're actively working on finishing up the 23 trips. We're already working on the 24. And of course, we've got other trips already planned for this year. This brochure, if you haven't picked it up, I would recommend it. It goes through all that, shows the ones that we've already scheduled and those that we plan to. Also, Sandy Pauley of Direct Travel will be sending out an email in the next 2 weeks talking about these trips. So for those that have not given her your email, you may want to do it on the way out. So anyway, I encourage you to pick one of these up. So now I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Greg. I am Kathy Clary. I'm a newer member of the team. And I'm going to introduce our first two speakers today. We have two ladies from State Farm. Melissa Schroeder, she's a native of the Bloomington Normal community. She has a bachelor's degree in broadcast communication and a master's degree in human resource management. And she's putting that to work right now in the corporate responsibility area where she is a manager. She has oversight for the Bloomington Center, which is also known as B-Link, and she'll be giving us an update on it. Our second speaker is Amy Waldron. She's an analyst within the corporate responsibility area, and she had an interesting start to her State Farm career. As a college student, she worked in a State Farm agent's office and enjoyed it so much, she decided to come to work for us after college. She's going to provide an update on the 100th anniversary for us. So, welcome.
So, good morning. Amy and I are just going to take a little time today to talk about our Link Center, talk about the Link Centers in general. We'll tell you a little bit about our 100th anniversary and what's going on with that. Then Amy's going to also talk about some exciting things that we hope that you will get involved with. So, we'll go to the next slide. So when we talk about Link Centers, what are the Link Centers? The Link Centers started about 5 or 6 years ago, and they started in Dallas. So as you know, we have our hub locations, and what we call our hubs are Atlanta, Dallas, and Phoenix. And we have several employees that are located in those areas. As a result of a lot of employees moving to those locations, State Farm really wanted to make sure that they still had connections to the community, that employees had connections to one another, and as we work with our nonprofits. So they created these things called the Link Centers. And we got such great feedback, and there's so much use of the Link Centers in those locations, we started thinking, and our organization said, well, how are we connecting Bloomington folks? We know we have a lot of new employees that continue to join the organization, and do they know about all the things that the organization provides? As you heard in my intro, we have oversight for our nonprofit relationships, so our charitable giving in McLean County. So what we do with that is we build these relationships. We also fund programming. So when we think of community centers, when we think of engagement activities, when we think of volunteering, all of that comes through our link centers. We are the ones that are responsible for that for McLean County, just as all these other link centers have responsibility for that in their locations. Our link center, again, we haven't had the chance to really get involved with it because of COVID, right? So we were shut down for quite some time. We did do a soft rollout in November of 2020, but we know that now that we're hopefully working our way through COVID, and that our doors will be open soon and to our nonprofits as well as to retirees. So I want to kick this off with a little video that gives you a little preview of our link center. And you'll see Annette Martinez, who has retired, one of our senior executives, but she will be part of this video as when we created this. Again, we thought we were going to be open while she was still employed, but now she's retired. So here's a little video of our link center.
Hello, welcome to the Bloomington Link Center, also known as V-Link. We are so excited you came to the Link Center today, and we wanted to take a moment to let you know what we are all about. We have a total of 4 Link Centers across the country: City Link in Dallas, Park Link in Atlanta, Marina Link in Phoenix, and V-Link here in Bloomington. We are so thrilled for you to check out our Link Center space. The Link Centers are intended to be a welcoming environment for employees to grow personally and engage in their communities. We've worked very hard to make it an enjoyable place for you to visit. When you are here, you'll find yourself taking a class, enjoying a community outreach event, or maybe volunteering. For our employees, the Link Center is also a place to grow, develop, and broaden their relationship with all business areas. The Bloomington Link Center is known as V-Link. Our main location is in the northeast corner of the Illinois Operations Center. There are also 2 satellite offices, one at corporate and one on the corporate south campus, where employees can connect with Link Center employees to learn more about volunteer opportunities and employee events. V-Link will continue our strong philanthropic relationships with organizations and promote volunteer opportunities at local events. You can learn more about our center on our V-Link Yammer page. And remember, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Well, that's what our link center looks like. And as you see, it's very modern. We have a lot of space, and we really are excited to open our doors to the community. So one thing I do want to let you know is as of May 1st, retirees will be able to come on site to take advantage of our V-Link Center. So I think that is fantastic. So there's also ways that we wanted to tell you about connecting with State Farm, because I know that we have the gold timers, your meetings here, and we're so thankful to be a part of them, but we also have a site on statefarm.com that you can stay up to date and really keep involved and stay involved. We will be adding things to it around volunteer opportunities, but I just wanted to click on that so you could see how to connect through the V-Link at State Farm. So this, when you click on that link, again, it'll show you on statefarm.com. It'll tell you a little bit about V-Link, which is our Bloomington Link Center, and then it'll tell you where our locations are as well, as I shared with you from Atlanta, Dallas, and Phoenix. There's also, as you scroll down, you'll see more links that will get you in tune with things that are happening around our 100th anniversary, which I'll talk about in a minute, and of course the Gold Timers Retired Club. We have the newsletter that is out there, Good Neighbor Grants, and then just as you see all those links, just to provide more information for you. So really, really easy to find on statefarm.com. So she gets her chance up here to speak. But I wanted to let you know that we do have this 100th anniversary website. And within this website, you know, I can click on that. So here we have right here, where you click on that, and again, that's on statefarm.com. But as you see, it'll say, are you a State Farm retiree? You can sign in, and it'll tell you what you need to do to sign in. But here's where you'll go to hear all kinds of information and opportunities that we're having where retirees can participate. So again, that's out there on statefarm.com. Super, super easy to find, really great information, and it will continually be updated. So that's another great thing. I also want to share with you that we have 100th anniversary swag. So there are clothing items, there are coffee mugs, there's all kinds of things that are available that you can purchase. Now I will tell you that, and so these are just some of the things that you can see out there of what's available. So we are there's weeks that you can get online to purchase any State Farm 100 branded item, but there will also be free shipping. So the week of next week, so the week of March 28th, the entire week, and the week of April 25th, the whole week, if you get on that site for the 100th anniversary branded items, or anything that you want to buy online, during those 2 weeks, you will have free shipping. So as you know, sometimes shipping can be more than the items themselves, so that's also a great thing. So again, you can find all of this on statefarm.com. So also, just last thing, wanted to let you know, and again, both of those sites right there will take you to, it says Shop the Farm. You can get to it easily that way, but again, all of that's right there on statefarm.com. Really, really easy to find. Really trying to make it so there's not too many clicks that you have to go through. It's very, it's bolded, everything's out there. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was around the newsletters. There's 3 newsletters. You should have already received one. So we had one that went out on March 11th. The second newsletter will be going out around the April-May timeframe. And then the third one will be early June. We don't have those exact dates, but we will be updating the site to give you a heads up on when that's coming. So just be on the lookout for that. Is there a question?
Yeah, Michelle, could you just ask the audience who received the newsletter from you?
Yeah. So who received the newsletter? So we need to make sure that we're getting, so we do have a listing of retirees' email addresses, so I do want to make sure that we get your email addresses. So I really would encourage you, if you go out to statefarm.com and you go to that 100 site, when it talks about what's going on for the 100th anniversary, it is asking for your email because you do have to opt into it. So only those that have said, yes, I want to learn more, I want to get information, that is how you will start receiving newsletters.
I didn't want to put Michelle on the spot, but the committee found out that half of us did not receive the email. So that's why we just wanted to see from this group how many received it.
No, that's good to
She knows
know.
what's going on.
It's good to know, and that's really important to us because, as we said, as of May 1, we are going to start allowing our retirees to come on site to our Wheeling Conference Center. So we really want to make sure that you guys are getting information. Question in the back.
Yeah, there's a site called apparelsf.com that looks like it's State Farm 100, but it doesn't have free shipping on there. Is there a way to make sure you also put free shipping on that site?
Yes, so during the weeks, as I said, of March 28th and April 25th, if you're ordering during that time, there should be an extra something that you'll click on to get the free shipping. Because our vendor knows that during those 2 weeks, if things are ordered, that there will be no shipping costs.
When I go to this shop State Farm or sffarm.com, it tells me the weeks that they're shipping is free, but the other
The apparel site probably has all kinds of things, and I know departments order from that, agents may order from that as well. So make sure that you're getting the shop the farm.
So you might want to put a note on the other one to say, go to this one to get the free shipping, because people ask why there's two sites, and one says free shipping, the other one doesn't.
Yeah, so we will definitely take a look at that because we have advertised it for all of our employees as well. We've had communications that go out, as well as I said, our vendor is very aware of those dates of those free shipping, so great question though. Let me open this up for any other questions that anyone may have. Any other questions? All right, well, I'm going to turn this over to Amy, and she is going to tell you some full information about some of the things that are. Oh, that's right, yes, keep going.
I keep her. And if you want to
Want
turn
that?
off your mic up there, and I'll turn off, I'll do the okay.
So Amy's going to tell you, I know I don't have my mic on, but as she's kind of pulling that up, she's going to tell you about an opportunity where we want all of our retirees to get involved, and it's part of our 100th anniversary, so.
Thank you, Melissa. Good morning, Amy Waldron. I'm an analyst with corporate responsibility. I work with Melissa and the rest of us over at the Link Center, and we are looking forward to having people back on campus. As things started to come together 2 years now, when we were planning for this awesome celebration of being part of a company that has been around for 100 years, many ideas and tactics were thrown around of what we want to do to celebrate our 100th. Of course, being the good neighbor that we are, a community tactic was extremely important to the company. So from that idea generation came the idea of a community walk. Excellent. Well, then COVID happened. And what does a community walk look like now in the time of COVID? So just last Wednesday, March 16th, we launched the Good Neighbor Walk Run. It's a virtual 5K that we are asking the entire community to get involved with. It is open to employees, retirees, agent staff, and the community at large. One of our charges was to pick a nonprofit to partner with that we could support through donations. That nonprofit was chosen was the Boys and Girls Club of America. We have a very strong relationship with them nationally. We have an immense relationship with them here in Bloomington, Normal, and as well as our hub locations, Atlanta, Dallas, and Phoenix. So, and our agents have very strong ties to Boys and Girls Clubs in their local communities too. So it was an easy partnership to slide into. And we'll get you the link to this website so you guys can share it out with the population. But it is Good Neighbor 5K, State Farm. And we ask that if you are interested, it's a 5K your way. You can walk around your block. You can walk around the park. You can break it up over many days. If you don't feel like doing the whole 5K the whole day, that's perfectly fine. But what we do ask is if you go out, you register, you tell us how you found out about us, put your information in, and as you are going through the site, you can add household family members. Let's say you and your spouse would like to walk, add their name in there, register them as a participant. The next screen will take you to where you get to pick your t-shirt size. We will have t-shirts that have this logo on them, of course red, and on the back it's got the Boys and Girls Club of America logo as well. Those will be mailed directly to you. And then beginning April 18th, the walk window is open. We ask that you complete your 5K between that time frame, however you want to do it. And then on April 18th, this website will flip and it'll become an interactive website. We'll actually have virtual opening ceremony. We've got some people that are going to show us how to stretch, how to breathe during the walk, how to cool down after the walk. We'll have a statement from one of our executives. And we'll also have some music that you can download and listen to on a personal listening device as you're walking. We'll also have a photo sharing platform. Come tell us how you walk, show us how you walk, show us all the people that you've joined with in the community to to make this walk happen. We do ask that if you register, that you follow the donation link out to a select Boys and Girls Club, whether it's one in your area or the national website. And we do ask that it's a $25 recommended $25 donation per participant. And the website walks you through all of that. We've made it really user-friendly. You just kind of click through the process and it'll take you through the progression of registering, making your donation, ordering your t-shirt, and then we're getting ready to do some more stuff to the site to remind you to come back and visit April 18th through May 1st. Any questions? We're really excited about it. We've only been live for a week and we've got over 2,700 participants already registered. We've got a lot of the employees, but we're seeing some significant upticks in the agent population. The agents are excited about maybe potentially turning it into a community event for them, a marketing event. We would love to see more of the community at large too. Yeah, the local Boys and Girls Club. We know that they've got certain programs that promote health and wellness, and they're going to take the kids out to Constitution Trail and walk and get pictures of them walking and share that with us as well. So we love the partnership.
Saw a hand in the back.
If you donate, will State Farm automatically do the matching?
No, you'll have to go out and do the matching gift, but the way the website is set up, it'll take you a link to the grant site to remind you to do your matching gift.
That's great.
We try to make it as easy as possible. They left it up to me, which, you know, I'm not the most network savvy sometimes. So, and for the Boys and Girls Club in Bloomington, Dallas, Atlanta, and Phoenix, there's a specific donation form that they created for us so they can track those donations in those locations. Yeah.
Does it have to be walk, run, or can it be like any kind of exercise, like water aerobics, stuff like that? Go out and just list your hours or your
Yep.
minutes or whatever?
Yep, that's what we're doing. It's 5K your way. So however you want to get exercise and participate, we're not limiting it to any, just walk or run.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
On that electrical.
That elliptical, exactly. Set my miles and let's go.
Any
Awesome.
questions?
Any other questions?
Not
Thanks.
not on this topic, but I was wondering if you could give an update on 100 for Good and if you're on track to get to the million by the anniversary.
Well, a great question. Absolutely. Thank you. I'm so glad that you brought that up. So talking about our 100 for Good, and that has been going so great. We have had upticks like we have never seen. We are at, right now, about 950,000. Don't quote me on that, but we're in the 950 area. So we know, well, we feel very confident that we're going to reach that 100 before our anniversary in June. So we're super, super excited about that, yes. But we've been really, really trying to push it out there and, encourage folks to, track the things that we're already doing, those acts of good, because it can be so much, it can be anything. But yes, we are very close and we're gonna reach our target for sure. Anything else? There's a
Could you explain that 100 for Good?
Sure, absolutely. I apologize, I always think everybody knows about 100 for Good. So we have a site, which is called 100 for Good. And what we are asking is that individuals go out and track acts of good. Just being that good neighbor, whatever that may be. That could be buying a cup of coffee for someone, opening a door, helping someone carry their groceries to their car, anything. Those are acts of good. And so what we've been asking our employees and others to do is track that. So when you get 25 acts of good, you receive a t-shirt. When you get, and then it varies. There's some online things that you can get. But we are just asking, the goal has been for us to reach 1 million acts of good by our 100th anniversary. So we have been doing the 100 for Good. We've had that going for about 3 years. We were kind of flat for a while. And then we would see the upticks around the holidays and a lot of donations. And so what it is it's asking for your time, your resources, or your service. So those are acts of good. And we don't have parameters on what is an act of good. It really is doing something for someone else. And each of those acts count. So if you do charitable work, if you're on a board, every time you have a meeting, every time you present, if you're donating at church, if you're paying your tithes, all of that counts as acts of good. And so this helps us get to that 1 million mark by the time we reach 100 years. So, question? Yes?
Are family members eligible to participate in that, or do they have to be employees or retired?
Employees and retirees only, yes.
Okay.
I don't think retirees, I was like in the top 20 before I retired, and then I reached out to the analyst, and she said after I retired,
It didn't
I
like
would
you?
no longer be able to participate, so.
Let me check into that. Okay. And I'll get back to you, and I'll make sure, because that was one of the things that we were pushing. So, yeah, and we were keeping, recognizing those top numbers. Yeah, so you were in the top 20. That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, we'll get back to you. We'll make sure that we get an update on that, because I know that that was one of our goals, to allow retirees to do that. Any other questions? Great stuff, guys. This is a really good question. Well, we're looking forward to, because I know you guys already have a date secured to come to the B-Link Center on May 5th, I think it is. So we will see you there in our beautiful location, and thanks so much for having us.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, so I'm one of the people going on May 5th, and right now it's just the Gold Timers Committee that's going. And once we've scoped it out, we're going to be figuring out how we can get everybody else into there and check it out as well. Next up is Perry Rock.
Well, good morning. Really excited about the program coming up. It is, many of you have worked in this office. I've heard from several of you that that was your favorite place to work. And today we have Bill Kemp coming and talking to us about State Farm downtown building, the most famous building in Bloomington. Bill has served as the librarian for the not-for-profit McLean County Museum of History for 19 years. He has a graduate degree from the University of Illinois Springfield and Illinois State University. He makes his home in Normal, and I'll turn it over to Bill.
Yeah, but we'll try to get through this as quick as we can. Thank you for the opportunity. As I always say, I give a lot of public programs throughout the year. I always emphasize that the McLean County Museum of History, occupying the old courthouse in the heart of downtown Bloomington, we are a not-for-profit, right? We are not financially dependent on or directly connected to the city of Bloomington or the county of McLean, right? My salary, for example, is paid for by the members who support the museum and those that support our endowment. So if you appreciate local history, if you appreciate free programming like this, and the majority of our programming is free to the public, one exception being the Evergreen Cemetery Walk, please support our museum or become a member. That's very important, because we can't do all the things we do without your help. Speaking of free programming, a shameless promotion, I am speaking this Saturday at 1 o'clock in the courthouse, the museum, on the Henny Kilowatt, which was an electric car manufactured or assembled in Bloomington. Believe it or not, in 1960 and 61, only about 200 were manufactured, but it's a fabulous, interesting story. The Henny Kilowatt, Eureka Williams, so before Rivian, Bloomington was the site of electric car manufacturing. I'm going to tell that story. We have the Eureka Williams papers. We have a rare collection of Henny Kilowatt papers. So what I will be showing is a lot of neat images and other material this Saturday. That's online or in person, but you need to register. So hope to see some of you there. Okay, that's a lovely photo, undated, though you can probably get close to the year by identifying the automobiles, but I haven't done that as of yet. Just a few caveats before I begin, I'm not a State Farm historian, right? That's Buck Farley is the corporate archivist, so Buck and others know more about State Farm and the State Farm story than I ever will, right? And some or many of you in the audience have worked downtown and have a firsthand knowledge of the home office building that, again, I simply do not have. So please keep all of that in mind in the next half hour or so. What's my main goal here? It's to just show some fabulous photographs from the McLean County Museum of History archives, many of which come from the Pantograph Negatives collection. About a decade ago, the Pantograph donated their entire negatives collection, which dates to the early 1930s when the staff began to take photographs until December 2000 when the staff went to digital photography. So we received about 1 million photo negatives. We are now, with federal and state grants and local support from folks like you, we are digitizing and uploading onto the searchable Illinois Digital Archive site about 100,000 of the oldest negatives from the Pantograph collection. So again, the early 1930s, and we're now into 1952 with more years to come, though of course that's dependent on financial support because we don't have the funds currently to do much more digitization. So a lot of the images you're going to see come courtesy of the Pantograph Negatives collection, and you can search a lot of State Farm images and other on the Illinois Digital Archives site. The mission of the museum, where I work full-time, is to collect, preserve, and make available the objects and papers that tell the story of McLean County and its people. Our mission, though, also includes interpreting and encouraging the preservation of historic buildings and sites. So as an institution, we did express concern in 2018-2019 over first vacating the State Farm building and then the subsequent consideration to demolish it. The State Farm Home Office building is a contributing property to the National Register of Historic Places District that covers much of downtown. That's a federal designation, and that came in 1984 thanks to the work of Museum Executive Director Emeritus Greg Coos and retired ISU historical geographer William D. Walters. Their work in the 1980s really kind of secured a historic preservation ethos in downtown. Though as we witnessed a few years ago, such a designation, National Register of Historic Places, does not guarantee preservation, right? The former State Farm Insurance downtown office building, known as the Downtown Building, or the Home Office Building, as far as I can tell, it was never referred to as corporate, was built, and most of you probably know this, in 4 major stages over about 18 years. It's the most significant 20th century building in all of Bloomington, flat out, no question, and it happens to be the tallest building in downtown Bloomington. The original building, the first 8 stories on the south end, were designed by a firm composed of successors of the Arthur L. Pillsbury architectural firm. Pillsbury was killed in an automobile accident in the fall of 1925. He was coming back from a U of I Michigan football game in Champaign-Urbana, was tragically killed during the height of his career. So successors that worked for Pillsbury, Edgar Lundeen, Philip Hooton, Edwin Rusin, and Archie Schaefer then completed this project. And then it was Schaefer and Hooton, that is Archie Schaefer and Philip Hooton, who designed the building's 3 subsequent additions. So they loom large in the story of the State Farm downtown building. This building is the only example of an Art Deco style skyscraper in all of Bloomington. A feature often of Art Deco is the emphasis on vertical lines. Note the layered brick columns running between the windows. Though the spandrels, that's the space between the top of the window and the sill above, in this building are softened somewhat by the use of terracotta and granite panels. So a lot of that ornamentation isn't necessarily in the strict Art Deco style. So this is a more eclectic building, if you will. The first story features a thin stone granite base, random color brick, and tall windows cased with dolomite stone cut in a stepped back manner, and that's all typical of Art Deco treatments. We also see here the terracotta rondelles or medallions between the first and second stories, as well as the columnar lanterns, which at one time were fitted with glass shades. And then we see a chevron design pattern between the second and third stories, and geometric patterns and design flourishes like that are another hallmark of Art Deco. And we have here certainly the finest example of Art Deco terracotta work in the Twin Cities, no questions asked. In 2004, State Farm spent $12 million restoring the building's exterior and other upgrades. They did that by using the U.S. Secretary of Interior standards for historic rehabilitation. Why did they do that? Well, State Farm wanted a certified rehabilitation project through the federal government so they could get federal historic tax credits back, which they did, to the tune of $2.5 million. We do not have the original blueprints in our collection. We do hold a large collection of Arthur L. Pillsbury and successor architects, blueprints, floor plans, renderings, and other material, but nothing directly related to the State Farm building. We do have scanned copies of several blueprints and facade views. I assume the originals are held at the State Farm archives. And note there, in the initial plans, there were several whimsical decorative elements which never made it into the final building. The address of the downtown building, of course, is 112 East Washington Street. So that's the main entrance, as most of you know, right? The southern half, the side closest to Washington Street, is older, with the first 8 floors going up in 1928, 1929. Where was State Farm, you might wonder, located before the erection of this magnificent building, or its first stage, right? Well, the company was founded by George J. Maherl, a Myrna area farmer, in 1922, and as we've already heard, right, we're celebrating the centennial of this insurance giant. Maherl had a one-room office to start things out in the Durley building, which was at the corner of Main and Jefferson, just off the courthouse square. He soon expanded to the McLean County Farm Bureau building. We know that today is the Golden Dragon restaurant in downtown Bloomington at 111 West Monroe Street. And by 1928, when they start this building, State Farm has all of 73 employees. But they know they're going to grow and grow rapidly, so a skyscraper, or a mid-rise, I should say, was due. What was located at the corner of East and Washington, where the State Farm building would go? Well, it was the Castle Theater, or rather the old Castle Theater, which was built in 1904 primarily as a vaudeville house, though it, from its very beginning, did show motion pictures. And it closed shortly before the new Castle Theater opened in 1916. And of course, I must say, the new Castle, which is now 106 years old, is a bright spot in downtown as a successful live music venue, but this is its predecessor building. And here I'm just showing off some of the fabulous items in our archives. This was a program for people attending a 5-reel photo play, a silent film, at the Old Castle Theater. That's Alexander Dumas's 1844 novel of the same name, and yes, starring James O'Neill. And who is that? He's the father of playwright Eugene O'Neill. Isn't that neat? This program really speaks to the rise of motion pictures as a dominant form of public entertainment, with the inevitable decline of vaudeville and other forms of live theater, though you don't get talkies or sound until the late 1920s. We're going back to the image I showed earlier. Construction began in October 1928 of the original 8 stories at the south end. It was built for the general contractor was J.L. Simmons of Bloomington. The cornerstone was laid in February 1929, and the subsequent 3 additions will date to 1934-35, 1939-1940, and 1945-46. Let's enlarge this image. There. So the sign here, right here reads, "This building being erected for and by State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance Company. Present office in IOOF building." IOOF, you might be wondering, well, that's the Independent Order of Oddfellows, right? And they had a large temple just north of the State Farm building, which will have to be torn down to make way for the 2nd and 3rd editions. And notice the sign right here, some advertising. What does that say? "On screen at last, Uncle Tom's Cabin. America's best-known play with a special cast at the Irvin Theater, Friday and Saturday, March 1 and 2. The Irvin was the premier movie house in Bloomington, located on Jefferson Street, but like much of downtown, a magnificent building was torn down to make way for surface parking. Another enlargement from the previous photograph, and here you get a sense that the State Farm home office building is a steel-framed mid-rise sheathed in masonry, brickwork, right? But behind that brickwork is a steel-framed mid-rise. The cost for the first 8 floors was $400,000, but as I always say, we must adjust for inflation. So $400,000 in 1928-29 would be for us today the equivalent of about $6.6 million. So a lot of money to spend right on the cusp of the Great Depression, right? And the original 8 floors will be completed during the Depression. Here's a lovely view looking east. Shows the construction of the final 4 floors, the first of 3 additions to the original 8 floors. And we see the auditorium of the original or southern half of the building. Work began on this addition on March 14th, 1934, and was completed the following year. Yes, and this photograph was taken from the People's Bank building, which is sadly empty, like too much of downtown currently. This view is looking south. You will not recognize any of these buildings here because today that's the Law and Justice Center complex, right? In the 1960s, 70s, urban renewal occurred, right? So 6 contiguous square blocks of 19th and early 20th century commercial buildings were raised to make way for the Law and Justice Center and later a parking deck and a nondescript office building. And that's the framing of the rooftop auditorium, obviously on the left. There's another lovely image. You'll hear me say that a lot. This dates to 1935. The large structure on the right obviously is an elevator to carry materials up to the first edition construction. And here we have an interior and an exterior, or I should say both interiors. One you're still out in the outdoors. Work being done on the original or the first edition. There was no sign atop the original 8-story building when it was completed in 1929, but after 4 more stories and the rooftop auditorium were added by 1935, workers installed the iconic sign on the building's west side facing the courthouse, now the museum. The letters for State Farm stood, you hear, anywhere between 5 and 5.5 feet tall, and insurance was spelled out in letters between 4 and 4.5 feet tall. Well, maybe somebody here will correct me on that. The red neon sign atop the building, of course, was a beacon of commercial success for this increasingly important insurance insurer nationwide. It was a point of community pride and it gave people in the Twin Cities a sense of belonging, right? An identical sign on the north side of the building was later moved in 1950 to the building's east side. So you had State Farm insurance signs on the east and west side. A few months after State Farm cleared out of the building and put it up for sale, this was in the fall of 2018, the neon red lights were turned off for good, and that was a blow for a lot of us downtown, right? Okay, the images we're going to see, the next several images, are courtesy of Architecture and Design magazine, the May 1938 issue, because that issue features the works of Bloomington architects Archie Schaefer and Philip Houghton, who you'll remember had a hand in the original 8 floors and then designed the building's 3 additions. So these images are from this 1938 issue of Architecture and Design magazine. We have an original copy in our archives. And here you see an incredible view of the first floor reception and then the stairs to the auditorium. There's the auditorium lobby and the auditorium itself. I used to say, I've given this talk or a version of this talk in the past. I used to say that the auditorium had a wood parquet floor, but I was corrected by my former boss, Executive Director Greg Coos. He said, no, that was custom cut and laid linoleum made from colored clay and linseed oil, which was a very popular and durable floor covering at the time. Schaefer and Houghton, right, the architects, their footprint is still visible in the community. Downtown, the Auto Hotel and the Kaiser Van Leer building are both projects of theirs, and both are in the Art Moderne style, which is kind of a sister, if you will, of Art Deco, although in Art Moderne you're going to celebrate horizontal lines and a streamlined sense more than you are in Art Deco. Schaefer and Houghton also had hand in residences, right? So Henry Barron's and Mercer Davis homes on Country Club Place are Schaefer and Houghton homes. And institutional or educational buildings, right? Sheridan and Lincoln schools, built during the Great Depression and in the Art Deco style, are Schaefer and Houghton. So not only the downtown home office building, but many other buildings in the community as well. These are known as WPA schools because the New Deal helped fund, grease the wheels, if you will, when it came to bonding and other issues for local school districts to construct schools. I mentioned the Independent Order of Oddfellows because State Farm had offices there. They had leased much of the first 2 floors of this building in the 1920s. At the time of this photograph, the growing insurer had just announced the purchase of this 1901 Temple building designed by, yes, Arthur L. Pillsbury, and they began tearing it down in mid-1938 in anticipation of building the second addition, which would connect to the southern end of the mid-rise. G.J. Mahurl had, I believe, 3 offices in the building over time, but most of you will be familiar with the last one, which was on the 8th floor on the north end. Here we see the scene from June 7th, 1938. Several hundred employees gather outside the building to sing birthday greetings to State Farm founder G.J. Mahurl. In a brief talk right on the street, he told employees that no decision yet had been made whether to establish additional branch offices or expand office space into downtown Bloomington. Well, we know the answer to that. They will begin raising the Oddfellows Temple building 1 month after this birthday celebration. You see anything humorous in this picture, right? I always like to point those things out. Yeah, so these local boys don't care much for State Farm and its history or the power that G.J. Mahurl wields in the community. They appear kind of bored about the whole thing, right? nice view of the 100 block of East Jefferson Street taken from the Corn Belt Bank Building. We're looking east here. And I don't know, honestly, why these folks are gathered here. This was a Saturday, this was a Friday, so Normal Community High School had its homecoming parade downtown Bloomington. And there was also a downtown business sales event known as Courtesy Days, so it might be connected to that. But for our purposes here, I'm not interested in those crowds. I'm interested in this scene right here because that's the raised Independent Order of Oddfellows Temple making the way for the new addition of the downtown State Farm building. So let's enlarge this image. And that's what we see here. It's hard to read that sign there, but that's John Felmley Company, General Contractors, Bloomington, Illinois. The Felmley Company will serve as general contractor for, I believe, the second and third editions. Of course, the John Felmley Company has its footprint in the community as well. Illinois State Normal University Special Education Building, now known as Fairchild Hall. Wesley Methodist Church in Bloomington on East Washington Street. The Memorial Center building on the Illinois Wesleyan University campus. Of course, the State Farm Home Office building. And the old Milner Library, now known as Williams Hall on the ISNU campus, are all Felmley Company buildings where they served as general contractor. Felmley Company will later be known as Felmley Dickerson Company, still based in Bloomington today. And one of their most famous buildings, of course, is not in Bloomington, but in Champaign-Urbana, Assembly Hall, now known as the State Farm Center, which opened in 1963 on the U of I campus. That's a Felmley Dickerson Company building. So the State Farm Center was built by the same general contractor as several editions of the downtown building. Here's a great aerial view. The Pantograph at one time had an airplane, believe it or not, known as Scoop. The Pantograph had one of the best farm pages in the nation at one time, so aerial photography was important for farm coverage. But they used the plane. There was actually 4 planes over a decade or so. Used the plane to take photographs of downtown and other scenes as well. So we see the northern half of the home office was built in 2 stages, 1939-1940, with the second one completed in 1946. And we get a great view of downtown Bloomington in its heyday. There's Withers Public Library, which is gone, the Bloomington Club building, the old Unitarian Church building, the Urban Theater, all of those buildings are gone today. We also see the Auto Hotel, the Farm Bureau building, which is the Golden Dragon Restaurant, and there obviously is the courthouse, now the McLean County Museum of History. And I'm just enlarging that previous image. We get a good sense of the third edition construction right there, with a nice view of Withers Public Library, which was torn down in the 1970s to make way for the current Bloomington Public Library. A lovely lantern view here, as they're known. The first 8 floors on the northern half cost almost $1.5 billion, or more than $30 million today, adjusted for inflation. That's Fane Hubler left on skates, delivering mail to Dorothy Thompson on the 6th floor of the downtown building. Hubler, under the direction of Divisional Manager Charles Beatles, was testing the feasibility of equipping mail delivery staff with roller skates. And most of you know this story, of course. The experiment proved successful by having the time it took Hubler to complete her rounds, and other roller skating messengers would soon follow her. There's the lobby with 2 elevator operators, right? Elevator operators in downtown Bloomington, whether it was at the People's Bank building, at the Gresham building, at the courthouse, the State Farm building. That's really a lecture unto itself, because that's a fascinating window into early and mid 20th century American history. Let's enlarge this photo so you get a view of the elevator operators. This photograph was taken only a few months after our entry into World War II, right, May 1942. This photograph appeared in the Pantograph. It's part of our Pantograph Negatives collection. We digitized this, as I said, and made it available on the Illinois Digital Archive site. The caption read in the paper when this photograph ran back in May of 1942, Bloomingtonoma wives of servicemen are doing their part by keeping on the job while their husbands are working for Uncle Sam. William D. Knapsinger was a second lieutenant stationed in California. Lawrence Vedder was a sergeant in officers training in Florida. And Robert Steele was at the Naval Training School at the University of Chicago. Here we see the top final 5 floors, which made for a 13-story building. The story goes, and I don't know if this is true or not, but as we say at the museum, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. We don't really say that, but so the northern half, 13 stories. Often commercial business buildings, hotels will not list the 13th floor as the 13th floor because of the bad luck associated with the number 13. But evidently that wasn't the case for this building. Why was that? Because G.J. Maherl's second wife, Sylvia Caldwell, they married in 1944. His second wife, Sylvia Caldwell, who worked for State Farm as a secretary, was a Titanic survivor, believe it or not, although many of you might know this story. And she was rescued in lifeboat number 13. During World War II and the early Cold War, the building was used as civil defense, aerial observation, and blackout monitoring. So as our community experienced and weathered these tumultuous times and events, so too did the State Farm building. It was right there, right? It was a player in unfolding American and world history. And that's the Grishine building. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And there's an enlargement. So the view here is looking east. The State Farm northern end is being blocked by the Grishine building on the east side of the courthouse square. And we get a good view of the roof of Withers Public Library. The view here now is looking west as the final 3rd edition is being completed in the downtown building. That's Edward Red Granton with a bird's eye view of the Illinois Hotel, now known as the Illinois House, the north side of the courthouse square, the Enzberger Furniture Store, now condominiums. Behind there we see the old Illinois Traction or Interurban Passenger Station, the old Bloomington Bulletin newspaper office. Believe it or not, at one time Bloomington had 3 daily papers, right? But I want to show this building right here. This is known as the Braley Field Building. Today, McGuire's Bar and Grill occupies the first floor, and Fred Woolrab has converted the upper stories into condominium or upscale apartments. But at this time in 1946, the Braley Field Building, now McGuire's Bar and Grill, was what? J.C. Penney's, right? So within several blocks of downtown, during downtown Bloomington's golden age, you had not only J.C. Penney's as a department store, but you had W.H. Rowland's, which was a local store, C.W. Clem's, Livingston's and Sons, those were all local department stores, and you also had Sears. McLean County Judge Frank Gillespie, this was in late 1948 or early 1949, upon the recent completion of the last edition, so the downtown State Farm building was complete, told George Maherl the following, quote, "I remember when that site was just a hole in the ground after the Castle Theater was torn down. That wonderful building was there all the time, but only G.J. Maherl had the vision to see it through." That's a June 1949 view of the facade. The windows did open before the installation of air conditioning, right? Every building, much like every person, has a story to tell. So the computer age in the Twin Cities really begins in this downtown building, right? In 1955, when an IBM 604 and 650 models are installed and programmed in this building. So the computer age really begins at the State Farm downtown building, which is, makes it historic in another way. The windows were replaced in the late 1970s or 1980s. Here's a view of late 20s, early 1930s. I'm showing this view because you get a sense of the open office space, right, that many of you were familiar with. But US Route 66, right, is coming up to a centennial. 1926, Route 66 is established, right? So we're coming up in a few years to its centennial. I don't know if many of you know this, but G.J. Maherl and State Farm Insurance were inducted into the Route 66 Hall of Fame back in 1995, having been nominated by accomplished Route 66 historian Tom Teague. And Tom said, at the time of the induction of State Farm and G.J. Maherl into the Illinois Route 66 Hall of Fame, he had this to say, quote, "Some people might see recognition of such a large company as State Farm Insurance as part of the Hall of Fame family as a departure from tradition. But in fact, State Farm has much in common with Route 66 history. For many years, the national headquarters of State Farm stood along Route 66 in Bloomington, and the qualities that typify the people and small business along the route, hard work, honesty, innovation, hardy individualism, and grassroots community spirit have also characterized State Farm over the years." That was Tom Teague in 1995. And let's not forget, beginning in 1937, State Farm contracted with Rand McNally to publish an annual free atlas in its name, and these atlases were an immediate hit with the motoring public. Here's an office scene jumping ahead about a decade to the fall of 1940. This appeared in the pantograph, so the caption when this photograph appeared in October 1940 read "block long," meaning the office space is a block long, right along East Street or Main. Here in one of the most up-to-date offices in the country are performed a multitude of accounting procedures necessary in a highly complicated business. That's what the pantograph had to say. They're taking the photograph here because what's happening, there's a 2-day open house, October 3 and 4, 1940, to celebrate what? The completion of the second edition, the first 8 floors on the north side of the building. Quote, "Guides Thursday and Friday will escort visitors through the State Farm building with its new $500,000 addition." Just about everything I've shown has been in black and white, so I thought, well, let's inject a little color. These, of course, if you're a postcard collector, everybody knows the name Kurt Tyke or CT American Art Postcards. Kurt Tyke was a Chicago-based postcard manufacturer and known for their linen postcards with bright colors, right? And we're seeing examples here. Although the State Farm building was the most prominent structure in downtown Bloomington, no question, it was just one of many buildings that were an integral part of the central business district and its economic, social fabric. For example, this photograph dates the 1948. The Bloomington City Directory at the time, this is the Grisham building, erected after the Great Bloomington Fire of June 19th, 1900. This will be one of the first buildings completed after the fire. And the Grisham building, of course, is sharing a block with the State Farm downtown building. That block is bounded by East Washington, Main, and Jefferson, right? The Grisham at this time listed 25 physicians and 9 dentists working out of its building, right? The Grisham and several other offices in downtown Bloomington. I'm thinking of the Eddy building, the Unity building, the Livingston high-rise, and the People's Bank building house most of the city's physicians, dentists, eye doctors, attorneys, music instructors, insurance agents, investors, realtors, dressmakers, photographers, and countless other professional types. back in the day, right, downtown Bloomington was abuzz with activity, 24/7. And of course, in the Grisham building, the Ozzy's Drugstore, which many of you will remember, occupied the street level for something like nearly 4 decades. But the Grisham building is no longer standing. Sadly, it was lost to arson in the summer of 1984. On the same block, on the north end of that block, was the Unity building, another important office building, especially for attorneys, and that was lost to a fire in 1988. So we see the block, the east side of the courthouse square, right, the 200 block of North Main Street as it looked in the late 1940s and as it looks today. So we talk a lot about progress in our country and community, but sometimes we have to wonder, right? In the summer of 1970, State Farm awarded contracts for its new $30.9 million corporate headquarters, which will be located along what we now know today as Veterans Parkway. The first employees settled into their new quarters in the summer of 1972, and the last departments to move in, that occurred in the following June of 1973, and I hope I have those dates right. And I hope I have the following correct, right? The downtown building became the Life and Fire building, and then when Life moved to corporate in 1979, simply the Fire building. Fire moved out to corporate in 1995, and the downtown building then became just that, simply the downtown building. Though many of us still call it the Fire building. There's the corporate building before the 2 western quadrants were added before expansion, which occurs in the 1980s. And I was there for that, right? I was an undergraduate at Illinois State University, and I cut grass for Bauer and Goodman Landscaping Company, which at that time had the contract for all of State Farm's properties. So I was there as the 2 western quadrants were being built in the 1980s, as I was working my summer job as an ISU graduate student. Corporate South, there's a architectural rendering, and then we have 2 photos courtesy of State Farm itself, opened about 1995 or thereabouts. And as we wrap up here, you folks have been patient, I really appreciate it. The back of this is another Kurt-type postcard, but I'm showing this near the end of the talk because here we have the completed building, right? The original 8 stories and the 3 subsequent additions. The back of this Kurt-type postcard reads, quote, "The State Farm Insurance Company's home office building is one of the most modern insurance buildings in all the United States. This beautiful building houses the largest auto insurance company in the world." And as we know, in January of 2018, State Farm moved the last of its employees from this 200,000 square foot downtown building, and then 3 months later made known its intention to permanently vacate it. Then, in July of 2019, unable to find a buyer, State Farm announced that it would proceed with demolition. Thankfully, 3 months after that gut punch to the community, in October 2019, State Farm transferred the building to Rockford-based Urban Equity Properties. And then in 2020, Kepler Vision, right, a parent company of All About Eyes, moved its corporate headquarters into the vacated State Farm building and occupied the top 4 floors. So today they have usually about 240 employees working in the building, and there's talk of increasing the number of employees there and the number of floors they're going to occupy, and there are also going to be other tenants occupying the building as well. In fact, right, the building is officially known now as the Kepler Vision Building, believe it or not, but I, for one, will continue to refer to it as the State Farm Downtown Building, or the Home Office Building, as I'm sure many of you will, and as many in the community will continue. Last year, the City of Bloomington designated the building a local historic landmark, another layer on top of the National Register of Historic Places designation, which now qualifies it for a share of the city's historic preservation grant dollars. So, from the utter despair of July 2019 and the threat of demolition, it looks looks like the State Farm Building is enjoying a renewed sense of purpose today, and may yet have something to say about the long-awaited revival or renewal of downtown Bloomington. So thanks so much for having me, and I really appreciate the time. And I guess I'm going to open it up to questions, if I can answer any of those. So thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
Yeah, there was talk of renovating that downtown building, the apartments. Is that been scrapped and just office use?
So the question was, what about apartments? Initially, the Rockford-based development firm was going to make that into high-end apartments. Those plans have been scrapped because of Kepler occupying the top 4 floors. They think they can fill that building. I mean, Rivian, right, has injected several $1 billion in our community. Downtown is yet to see any of that money, but it's hoped that with Rivian investment and the attraction of Rivian and other employers, that downtown will begin to see some renewal, right? Look at downtown Champaign, right? There's no reason why Bloomington should not be as vibrant and lively as downtown Champaign, given the wealth of this community, right? It's always been a bone of contention for a lot of us who love downtown, the fact that many of us in this community have abandoned downtown. And if you look at what's happening in older, wealthier suburbs in the Chicago area, I'm thinking of Naperville and Downers Grove and Evanston, right? Their downtowns are undergoing utter renewal, right? Seniors are moving back to dense downtown environments. They want to live in high rises. They want to have walkable environments. They want to walk to the grocery store and the theater and restaurants. So we're seeing a resurgence in older downtowns throughout the Chicago metropolitan area and in forward-thinking communities like Champaign-Urbana. We have not yet to see that here. And if this community wants to compete for high-tech dollars, for whip-smart couples wanting to come here, if our downtown continues to deteriorate or decay, we're not going to do a good job. So it really behooves us to get downtown back and vibrant if we're going to attract the people our community does to compete against what communities like Ann Arbor, Michigan, or Ames, Iowa, or Boulder, Colorado, that's our competition, right? And we're well positioned to do that, but we have much work to do.
Anyone else? Completely agree with you, Bill. I've lived here for 40 years. If there's one thing that needs to be done is Bloomington needs to revisit it as far as rebuilding it. Thank you very much for that talk. I personally find it one of the most interesting items we've ever had as far as gold timers. Really, really good. Thank you. Next time, I think we will also have another historical view of State Farm from a State Farm person himself with Buck coming. And that will be on May 26th, I believe, which is, sign up is on the website already. And we already have our plans for September and October. So thank you for being here. Hope that you enjoyed it, and we will see you in May.